Hey everyone, and I need to be completely honest with you right from the start. If you watched my earlier coverage of this weekend's winter storm, what I'm about to show you represents a significant shift in the forecast. The models have been trending and not necessarily in the direction many of us in the South were hoping for. But whether this is good news or bad news depends entirely on where you're located, and I'm going to break down exactly what's happening and why. We've just gotten the latest model runs in, including the critical 18Z European model. The confidence in this storm system remains extremely high. In fact, we already have winter storm watches posted across large sections of the central United States. When the National Weather Service issues watches 3 days in advance, that tells you the pattern is clear and something significant is coming. These watches cover parishes in Louisiana, most of Arkansas, northeast Texas, and areas of Oklahoma, including major cities like Oklahoma City, Dallas-Fort Worth, Shreveport, Little Rock, and Fayetteville, extending all the way to the Kansas-Oklahoma border. By the way, if you'd like specific weather forecasts for your region or city, please leave them in the comments. I'll answer them individually as time allows. Also, if you like the video and subscribe to my channel, you'd be very grateful. Now let's move on. Let's start with the central United States because that's where this storm system is going to fire up first. The latest European model run shows winter weather breaking out across Oklahoma by Friday evening. We're talking about light to moderate snow across the high plains, with winter weather pushing into Missouri and Arkansas. By Saturday morning, the picture becomes intense. A significant ice storm develops across central to northern Texas, with southern Oklahoma getting hammered by ice as well. The critical zone is going to be that transition between freezing rain, sleet, and heavy wet snow. On the current European run, that line sets up over central Oklahoma and northern Arkansas. This is heavy wet snow we're talking about, the kind that sticks to everything and brings down tree limbs and power lines. The progression of this storm is remarkably slow, which means it's going to be a long-duration event. Saturday evening, we're still seeing winter weather ongoing across northeast Texas, with extremely heavy snow wherever it stays cold enough aloft to support snow. There's some model disagreement about what happens in western Texas, but we're expecting significant winter weather across that region regardless. The snow shield extends all the way up into Kentucky, southern Illinois, and Indiana, reaching even into St. Louis and Kansas City. But here's what's concerning for the South. The latest European run is pushing a lot more freezing rain into Little Rock and Memphis, extending as far south as Jackson and Shreveport. Sunday morning, it's still ongoing with a re-amplification of moisture-keeping winter weather in the forecast before finally wrapping up Sunday evening. The GFS model tells a different story, and I'll be honest with you, the GFS hasn't been the most reliable model lately. It used to be the one that would show us what we wanted to see, while the European kept things conservative and usually verified correctly. But we still look at it because sometimes it gets things right. The GFS shows a more suppressed storm with heavier winter precipitation further south. It's depicting what would essentially be a sleet bomb over Texas, northern Louisiana, southern Arkansas, and northern Mississippi. On this solution, Oklahoma City, Little Rock, and Memphis would see all snow, while Dallas-Fort Worth gets mainly sleet. The AI guidance has been fascinating to watch with this system. The GFS AI and Euro AI models both show significant winter weather, though with slightly different placement of the heaviest impacts. What's important to note is that these AI models have been trending colder over the last 24 hours, which actually contradicts the warming trend we're seeing on the traditional models. This divergence makes the forecast more uncertain than we'd like at this range. Looking at the ensemble data for the central U.S. gives us a sense of where confidence is highest. The European ensemble shows a strong signal for several inches of snow, with a mean of over half a foot across portions of Oklahoma, northern Arkansas, southern Missouri, and western Tennessee. Some areas within this zone could see 8 inches or more. The individual European operational run shows even more extreme totals, with a corridor of potential 2-foot snowfall in parts of this region. The GFS ensemble places its axis of heaviest snow slightly further south along the Red River, with Oklahoma City southward showing over half a foot mean snowfall. The ice situation in the central U.S. remains deeply concerning. The blend of all models shows a solid corridor of 1/4 to 1/2 inch of freezing rain, with some areas potentially seeing 3/4 of an inch. Once you start getting to 1/2 inch of freezing rain, you're looking at significant icing that causes widespread power outages and makes travel impossible. This extends across the Ark-La-Tex region into Arkansas and along the Mississippi River. There's also going to be a sleet corridor with this system, though the exact placement remains uncertain. Now let's talk about the eastern United States, and this is where things get complicated and frankly disappointing if you're a snow lover in the South. I pulled up the latest European run just minutes before recording this, and I'll be honest, it really dampened my energy. The trend we're seeing is northward, and it's aggressive. I need to explain what this means and why it's happening. The latest 18Z European model run shows winter weather moving into northern Alabama by Saturday morning, with snow pushing into Tennessee. Nashville starts with very heavy snow. Snow extends into Kentucky and reaches southern Illinois. But here's where it gets problematic for the South. Northern Mississippi, northern Alabama, and northern Georgia see nothing but freezing rain. Even the mountains, which we expected would stay cold enough for snow, are now showing massive freezing rain on this run. By Sunday morning, we're looking at an ongoing ice storm from Atlanta to Columbia to Charlotte, affecting the entire Piedmont and almost all of North Carolina. Most of Tennessee has switched from snow to sleet and freezing rain. Meanwhile, a massive snowstorm develops for the mid-Atlantic. The European model is showing freezing rain extending as far south as Augusta and back to Atlanta, with a warm nose penetrating the Tennessee Valley all the way to the Tri-Cities area. This represents a significantly warmer and further north solution than we were seeing just this morning. I know this is frustrating to hear, especially for those of you who have been preparing for a major snow event. The reality is we're seeing a trend, and trends this close to an event tend to continue in the same direction more often than they reverse. This doesn't mean the forecast is locked in, and we could still see shifts back toward a colder solution, but I have to be honest about what the data is showing right now. The GFS model provides a bit more hope for winter weather lovers in the South, though it also trended north compared to earlier runs. It still shows a massive winter storm, but maintains colder air further south. The GFS depicts what would be an apocalyptic sleet storm across Arkansas with a massive snowstorm for Tennessee and points north. It keeps Nashville, the Tri-Cities, and areas northward all snow, while the European wants to bring rain into eastern Tennessee. The GFS also maintains winter weather for my area in Columbia, South Carolina, as well as Atlanta, Charlotte, and Fayetteville, as primarily sleet rather than freezing rain. The AI guidance for the eastern U.S. continues to show significant winter weather, though with the same general northward trend. Both the GFS AI and Euro AI depict major winter storms affecting the region, with snow for Tennessee extending northward into Kentucky and the northern areas of North Carolina and the mid-Atlantic, while showing ice storms across the Carolinas, Georgia, northern Alabama, and northern Mississippi. Looking at the ensemble data reveals where confidence lies. The European ensemble really favors a swath of 8 to 12 inches of snow across a zone from the Tidewater region north of Hampton Roads into the Delmarva Peninsula and extending into the mid-Atlantic. The 18Z run ticks this even further north. The latest European operational run barely brings snow into North Carolina, keeping the heaviest amounts for Virginia, the Northeast, and Ohio Valley. This is a massive northward shift, and I'll be completely transparent with you. If this trend continues, we're going to wake up tomorrow morning with a totally different tone across the South. The GFS ensemble keeps things slightly further south, with multiple inches of snow extending into North Carolina and dropping off into the deep south. The GFS operational run shows the most extreme scenario with 2 to 3 feet of snow from eastern Tennessee into North Carolina and southern Virginia. Do I buy that? Absolutely not. But it shows you the range of possibilities we're dealing with. The ice forecast remains alarming regardless of the trend. The blend of all models shows over half an inch of ice from Columbia almost to Charlotte, extending to Atlanta. Anything over a quarter inch of freezing rain is notable. Anything over half an inch brings widespread power outages. With the brutally cold temperatures this ice would be falling in, the impacts would be severe. Now let me explain what's causing this northward trend, because understanding the meteorology helps you appreciate why forecasts change. We're absolutely certain about one thing, and that's the brutal Arctic air mass coming. We're talking about temperatures 20 to 25 degrees below average or colder in the heart of winter. That cold air is going to bog down across the south, with intense cold air damming setting up over the eastern U.S. The big question mark in this forecast is the Baja Low off the California coast. Regardless of what this feature does, we're going to get significant overrunning moisture across the south from an amped-up southern jet, bringing Gulf moisture into cold air. But whether this Baja low ejects into the main flow or not determines whether we get a more amplified storm system that could produce historic winter weather or something different. Here's what's happening on the latest European run. The energy from the Baja low phases, with the main energy moving through. As soon as they phase, the system takes on a neutral tilt, which is a sign of rapid strengthening. When a storm system strengthens quickly, it wants to gain latitude and lift northward. That's exactly what we're seeing. The system tilts from southwest to northeast, and by Monday, it's ripping up into the northeast. This yanks everything northward and causes a strong low pressure to develop and potentially cut across the eastern U.S. For winter weather, ejecting the Baja low isn't necessarily terrible, but if you do it too fast, you mess up the entire cold air source for the southern tier. You generate a juiced-up system, but create warm air issues aloft and increasingly at the surface, too. Those model outputs showing freezing rain and sleet in the teens and 20s are now showing upper 20s and low 30s. The strengthening storm pulls warm air northward from the south, and we're seeing clear signs of this on the European model. I want to address something directly. If this storm trends completely away from the south over the next day or two, it's going to be brutal for everyone who covers weather. Local meteorologists, content creators like myself, we're all going to catch heat for this. I made a comment earlier that if this happens, we'll never recover from it publicly, and I stand by that. The confidence we had just 24 hours ago was extremely high for a major winter event across the South. To see it potentially shift this dramatically would represent one of the worst last-second forecast busts in my time covering weather. But I need to be clear about something else. I love winter weather. I'm passionate about it. I'm in the South, so of course I'm hoping for a more wintry scenario, but that passion doesn't interfere with my analysis of what the data is showing. I'm not going to tell you what I want to happen. I'm going to tell you what the models indicate is likely to happen based on the current trends. For those of you in the north who might be happy about this northward trend, be careful what you wish for. If this continues tracking north, you might end up with more ice than snow, and nobody wants that. The goal for any winter weather event is to get the cold air positioned correctly so we maximize snow and minimize ice. Right now, the setup is trending toward more widespread icing, particularly across the transition zones.